Hi, I'm Marie-Claire. Here's my email address if you have any questions about the reflective task and your simulation or interprofessional experience. In the session today, I'll give you some practical tips and some things to consider when writing a reflective task. Throughout your degree, you will have numerous opportunities to participate in continual professional development. As a student dietitian and then as a practicing dietitian, you'll be required to complete this continuous professional development cycle many times. I suggest you visit the DAA website and click on the CPD page for more information. By now, you've probably got a large list of terms that you've never heard of before. Things like deep learning and transformative learning. The ability to carry out meaningful reflection indicates the highest level of deep and transformative learning. I suggest you go ahead and read these two sources now. Stage 1, self-awareness, is the preparation phase. You really need to think and reflect before you write. Some ways to gather ideas before you write include a brainstorm or a brain dump. You ask yourself who, what, where, when, why, how about the scenario or event, and you jot all these down. Sometimes this results in too many scenarios. You can then narrow these down based on the task you're required to complete. Free writing, just allowing your ideas to flow onto the page. And mind mapping helps you to realise the connection and relationships between the ideas, and it really stops and helps you realise what you might need to do to complete your learning. Visit these links for some more information. Although the description is factual and detailed, be careful that it's just simply not a story. It's really important when you're writing the description that you be succinct. What's really necessary and what is not? It's not enough to just mention how you feel. Consider how your thoughts and feelings impacted your actions. So for example, I was so nervous, so I stood to the side of the group and I didn't really get involved. Or the lecture was really late at night, I was so tired and that's why I couldn't concentrate. Show the reader you're standing back from the event, which allows you to better reflect and be more critical. Let's look at two examples and you think about which one might be better. So firstly, people were mingling and some were louder than others. Or there was a guy calling out, I don't really know. These internal factors, they really need to be considered, but don't just limit your reflection to the internal. It's really easy to tell a story, but it's a lot harder to think about my prior experience and whether that has impacted the way that I view a situation. So take, for example, my recent experience as a carer for my auntie who was undergoing cancer treatment but recently passed away. When I consult a patient now who's undergoing chemotherapy and really suffering through the process, how does my prior experience impact the way that I provide that consultation? And last week, I completed a fabulous Feeding the Community placement where we got in the kitchen and we made a home-cooked breakfast for people on the streets. It was fabulous. And yet yesterday, I completed another Feeding the Community placement where they served leftover pizza from the night before. So how does my prior experience on these placements impact the way that I view the placement or situation yesterday? And when you're thinking about external factors, these might be things like the passage of time, and that's always a good one to add to your reflection. So if you reflect on the experience right here, right now, will that be different to when you think about the same experience later tonight when you're sitting around the dinner table, or perhaps next week, or when you think about it next month? So let's take a look at 4 different sources of knowledge that you could use in your reflection. So firstly, if I had reviewed the Sports Dietetics website before the lecture, I would know that I can't enrol in the Sports Dietitian's course as a student. 2, my father is a doctor, so I'm fully aware of the role of nutrition in child health. 3, I recently completed the Toastmasters public speaking course to improve my confidence in speaking to large crowds and new people. Or, I have been following social media with interest, waiting to see the government's stance on the proposed sugar tax. So here's just 4 examples of additional reading, understanding of an organisation, courses or self-study, and media and print online, all of which could be used as references in your reflection. In the learning phase, you need to demonstrate problem solving and rethinking. You need to demonstrate that you've learnt from this experience. This experience will have changed you, transformed your thinking, or impacted your views. In this phase, you will need to have cited references or literature or other sources that have contributed to your learning. You can use references throughout your reflection, but they are required in this section. So let's look at a few examples. You've recently visited an aged care facility and it's changed your view on how the residents are looked after. They're actually looked after really well, and that surprises you. Or you've just spent time with homeless people on the street and you realise now that the homeless crisis is a way bigger issue than you had originally thought. Or you've just listened to a range of dietitians speak and now you're more confused than ever about what sort of dietitian you wish to be. It's not just about chronic diseases. There are a whole lot more opportunities available for you. It's not enough to just state that you've learnt from this experience. You really need to dive deeper and demonstrate deeper learning. Sometimes there is no conclusion, no one outcome or solution. Sometimes your learning is still ongoing. You may realise that this reflection process has impacted or changed you. This is a really important step. It's the now what step of the reflection. What are you going to do now that you've learnt, firstly, that your preconceived ideas of aged care facilities were incorrect? Will you volunteer on a regular basis to work at residential aged care facilities so that you can break your stereotypical view and understand what it's like in the aged care sector? Or you recognise that there are people who need your help and that you're not too busy. So will you quarantine a time every week or every month or every semester to volunteer on campus to help people understand what it's like to study or be a student? There's so many programs that you could do that with. Or will you actively seek out a new group of people within your cohort to work with for your next assessment piece, to really challenge your views or learn more about other people from other countries or other age groups, really push you outside your comfort zone and limits?